When an average person stands next to a basketball player, they often feel like a dwarf. The average NBA player is 6 feet 7 inches tall, but when those 6'7" guys stand next to these guys on this list, they also feel belittled. Here are the top 10 tallest players in NBA history. Boban Marjanovic, 7 feet 4 inches. Boban Marjanovic is one of the most popular role players in the NBA today. Even though he looks like a bouncer in front of a Russian mob club, Boban became a fan favorite because he's the biggest kid on the court. You can often see Boban smiling and cracking jokes on the bench, or fetching balls when nobody else can do it. Unfortunately, he spends most of his time on the bench, as he's averaging less than 10 minutes per game in action. And it's not because Boban can't play. When he was coming to the NBA, he was regarded as one of the best centers in Europe, with multiple regional MVPs and all EuroLeague first-team selection. Because of different rules in European basketball, Boban was able to stay parked in the paint and dominate the game from the inside. In the NBA's pace and space era, he's constantly forced to run after smaller players, which doesn't play into his strengths. If he played 20 or 30 years ago, he would probably be one of the best centers in the league. Today, he's not playing much. But which other centers can claim that they kicked Keanu Reeves' ass in John Wick 3? Sim Bhullar, 7 feet 5 inches. Sim Bhullar is a Canadian professional basketball player and the first player of Indian descent that played in the NBA. And as you might have guessed, Sim Bhullar is really tall, standing at 7'5", and with a listed weight of 360 pounds. After 2 years at Mexico State, he declared for the 2014 NBA draft, where he went undrafted. But because the owner of the Sacramento Kings, Vivek Ranadive, is also Indian, the Kings picked him to play in their summer league team, mostly for marketing reasons. However, Sim eventually made the roster on a 10-day contract. He played in 3 total NBA games and 3 total minutes. Pavel Podkolzin, 7 feet 5 inches. Similarly to Sim Bhullar, Pavel Podkolzin was another guy that didn't play much in the NBA. But because of his short stint with the Mavericks and his height of 7'5", he's a member of our list. Pavel started his career in the Russian second division and also played in Italy before declaring for the NBA draft in 2004. He actually got drafted pretty high, with the 21st pick by the Utah Jazz, who traded him to the Mavs on draft night. He ended up playing 6 games for Dallas, for a total of 28 minutes and 4 points. He's still a professional player and plays in Russia. Chuck Nevitt, 7 feet 5 inches. Unlike his 2 7'5" NBA counterparts, Chuck Nevitt had a significantly longer NBA career. However, his minutes average looks similar to those of Bhullar and Podkolzin. Even though Nevitt stayed on the NBA rosters for 9 seasons, he played in only 155 games, with the average time of 5 minutes on the court. Despite the lack of playing time, he was a very popular player in his playing days, as many people wanted to stand in his presence and feel really small, which is a virtue of all players on this list. Nevitt won the title with the Lakers in 1985, despite not playing a single minute of the postseason. Regardless of that, he's the tallest player ever with a championship ring, which is a quiz-worthy fact to remember. Sean Bradley, 7 feet 6 inches. Standing at 7'6", Bradley was the 3rd tallest player to ever run on the NBA hardwood and instantly became a household name. It's hard not to notice a 7'6" guy, but Bradley was also a decent player. A premier shot blocker, he once blocked 14 shots in an NCAA game, which is a record that stands to this day. Bradley was also attempting to swat anything near the rim, but unfortunately for him, this also turned him into a poster boy for being posterized. Due to his size and somewhat nerdy looks, he was a target for most athletic wings who wanted to get a 7'6" guy on a poster. Bradley was drafted in Philadelphia, but left the biggest mark in Dallas, where he played for 9 seasons. He was averaging 8.1 points, 6.3 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks for his career, and remained a known figure among basketball fans worldwide. You may also remember him from Space Jam, where he starred alongside Michael Jordan and was one of the players whose talents were stolen by the Monstars. Yao Ming, 7 feet 6 inches. Yao is the best player on this list, the biggest Asian basketball star of all time, and one of the biggest ambassadors of the sport, literally. Yao Ming's parents were one of the tallest people in China, both former basketball players. Under the socialist regime of Mao Zedong, they were almost forced to marry and produce offspring. His mom was 6 feet 3 inches tall, and his father was 6'7". Yao was a government project in the making since before he was born, and he was expected to be tall. However, nobody really thought Yao was going to be 7'6". Young Yao was pushed to play basketball, and even though he wasn't any good at first and didn't like basketball, countless hours of training and his freakish height enabled him to dominate the Chinese league. He was selected #1 overall in the 2002 NBA draft by the Houston Rockets and instantly became a global phenomenon. Because of his height and over 1 billion Chinese fans, Yao was immediately one of the most popular players in the game, with a horde of reporters following his every giant footstep. But it wasn't all just height and hype, which some people soon realized. Yao could really ball and was extremely skillful for a player of his dimensions, with an array of post moves and a silky smooth jump shot. He became one of the best centers in the league, if not the best, when he was healthy. Unfortunately, he was rarely healthy, and his feet and knees couldn't support his large frame at the brutal NBA pace, which forced him to retire at the age of 30. He averaged 19 points, 9 rebounds, and 2 blocks per game, and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2016. He will be remembered as the biggest and the greatest Asian player of all time, and the only guy who makes Shaq look small. Slavko Vrnesh, 7 feet 6 inches. Slavko Vrnesh is a Montenegrin basketball player who had a long-lasting basketball career that stretched over 20 years. With his height of 7'6", it's easy to conclude why he started a professional career at the age of 17, when he signed for Turkish Efes Pilsen. With the emergence of Yao